In the previous lecture, you learned how to use parenting and how to parent using the pick whip or using the option menu here and choosing the parent layer. That's very fine. And we created some animation that was quite okay. Let's open the keyframes here. I want to come just over here and put the rotation to 0 and cancel all the animation. Cool. Now, I would like you to notice the child here has its own anchor point just in the middle. The parent has its own anchor point. When you rotate, which anchor point is being used to rotate the child? That's a good question. And it's an important question because your child can have a funny behavior if you don't consider the anchor point of the parent. You notice if I rotate the parent, the child is rotating according to the anchor point of the parent. I will undo this one. If I were to rotate the child alone, notice how the child will rotate on its own anchor point. That's obvious. But then when you parent and you rotate the parent, the child now rotates according to the anchor point of the parent. The same goes for position. Let's add here another plus 50, for example, pixels. You notice that everything moved, and they moved according to the anchor point of the parent and not to their own anchor point. But it's not so obvious with position. If you take the scale now, you add the scale here. You notice that it's going to scale according to the anchor point of the parent and not according to their own anchor point. It's not very obvious unless you have some distortion with the child, then you can notice it very well. But when I scale here, I am scaling according to the anchor point. Notice the scale here is coming from the anchor point of the parent. Let's put back the scale. Let's undo this one. Let's go to the scale of the child. We press Shift S. Notice how it's gonna scale. Okay, it's scaling according to its own anchor point. But when you scale it according to the parent, it will scale totally differently. You notice how it's moving and scaling. So you must be careful how and where you put the anchor point of the parent and how it affects the child or the children. This is very important to give it a special lecture. Otherwise, things will go like, what is happening here? So be careful where the anchor point is. What I can do, for example, is take the pan behind and move the anchor point, for example, just in the center of the child. And that's what's going to happen when I use the scale. Now everything is scaling according to the anchor point of the parent, which is in the middle of the child, and it looks like the child is scaling. That is quite a good animation when you want to get the focus on a child, then remove the parenting. I'll show you that later. So remember that the scale and the rotation, these are the most obvious, but also position and the rest will use the anchor point of the parent, and we scale and rotate accordingly. Thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next lecture.